Created myself a monster here. A literal Muppet monster. Do we kill the Muppet monster? Do we throw the Muppet monster out? Do we salvage the Muppet monster? Do we buy the Muppet monster expensive mohair? I just don't know. Hey guys, I'm Bella, the maker mama boss lady behind Vibrant and Fox, and this is episode 70 of my podcast. We have lots of naturally dyed yarn today in like 3 different projects. Big day for the naturally dyed Rainbow Passion project. A lot of finished objects, and then we also have, I talked about last time, a sweater I was going to frog and remake into a different sweater, and it is not going well. It is drama. So there's some sweater drama to be had, and a couple of fun announcements. So let's jump into all of that and get to the good stuff. I usually start off with a little, yes, I'm Bella, and I'm a crochet designer. I also knit. I talk about it here with you, and I'm pretty good about linking everything down below the video as well. So any yarns that I'm going to talk about that are available, any patterns, as well as any info about me, mailing list, blog, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm Fiber and Fox, and all the links are down below. So that's the little bit of intro admin-y bit. You know how to YouTube. You can like, subscribe, and all of that. It really does help out. But we'll just kind of gloss over most of that and jump into the yarn content because that's what you're here for. I don't have any new designs to show you this week, but I do have the scarfy shawl that we talked about the last couple episodes. I'll pop on a picture in case you missed those, but go back, watch them. The scarfy shawl is wrapping up testing. Actually, I think by the time you're seeing this, it'll be over and with my tech editor. So I'm hoping to have that out the very latest March 15th. March 8th would be great. I usually do Friday pattern releases, and whenever I release a pattern, I will send out a newsletter as well as do a pattern drop here on YouTube where I film about inspiration and tester photos and yarns you're going to need and anything you need to know. So I have a whole pattern drop playlist if you're interested in those. But the scarfy shawl is going to be coming very soon, and I was suspecting as I sent it to testers that it was going to be very much a you can't just make one of these kind of pattern. I wasn't requiring any testers to make more than one, but several of them have been like, yep, I'm on my second. Yep, I'm trying it in this way. Yep, I'm doing a smaller one. So it's very much a pattern that is versatile for any yarn weight, and you can basically make it any size you want. So it's a fun one like that. So stay tuned for the scarfy shawl coming in March. And then hopefully I'm going to get some new designs cast on, crocheted on. I never know what to say for that. Like, no one has been able to tell me the term. Chained on, begun. New crochet designs coming soon. I'm excited to be back into the realm of designing. We're gonna take a sip of tea here. I'm kind of getting over a cold, still have a cold, something with a cold, so my voice is a little off. I probably sound a little congested, but you get what you get. We're gonna lump this under admin just because I want to get it in the beginning of the video here, not at the end, so nobody misses it. But I am gonna be doing, I believe as you're watching this video, as all has gone to plan, today would be March 1st, I think. And for the month of March, I'm going to be doing something called Me Made March. Now, this is not something that I have created myself. This is not a hashtag that is exclusively mine. So there's going to be other makers and people in there from years past and prior and all of that. A lot of people who sew and hand make clothing items do a Me Made May, which is for the month of May, where you wear and style your handmade pieces, be them sewn, crocheted, knit, whatever, for the month, just to try to really get your handmade pieces in rotation and intentionally styling them and wearing them. But the issue that I run into with May is that by the time it rolls around here in New England, we're in like full get the garden in mode. It is warm. I'm not wearing wool sweaters and shawls at that point. So I thought this year I'd do Me Made March, which I thought was a clever thing I came up with, but there's lots of hashtags for it already. So for the month of March, I'm going to every day be wearing handmade, I'm not much of a sewist, so handmade crochet and knit pieces. Even if it's just knitted socks, I mean, I do that pretty consistently anyway, but I'm gonna be putting a real effort into wearing, styling, if you will. I'm not much, I don't know, I wouldn't say I have no fashion sense. I don't have any on-trend fashion sense. I definitely have a style, but it's very much a homeschool mom, art teacher, crunchy lady kind of vibe. You can tell by what I'm wearing. I have a hand-dyed sweater with ceramic buttons on. So I definitely have my own style. But my go-to outfit, I would say on a general day, is jeans and some kind of, not like a like a t-shirt, like band t-shirt or something, but a t-shirt, like I like a flowy A-line shaped, mostly cotton, kind of throw on easy t-shirt. I have little ones, I'm homeschooling, I'm nursing, and it's just, that's kind of what I wear. I don't know what your day-to-day is, but I'm not very much a leggings or athleisure kind of person. I will only wear leggings usually if I'm feeling not well. So I do love jeans. So I do get dressed, I guess, every day, but I was thinking about it, and I don't really recall a period in my life where I needed to dress, needed to style every day. I grew up homeschooled. I definitely got dressed every day and definitely had my own unique style for sure. But I never had a, like, I need to go somewhere dressed every day scenario at that point. I guess there was a pocket of like college, but it's very open to interpretation if people need to get dressed for college, because there's a full range of people in pajamas and maybe didn't shower and like whatever. So I got dressed at that point. I get dressed every day, let's be real. But as far as like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like styling, I've never had like a career where I needed to go into an office and was expected to have like a dress code or anything like that. So I've never really put outfits together in that kind of way. Usually our big out of the house moment for most of my life is going to church each week. And maybe like at this point we have like a homeschool co-op we go to, or, you know, running errands or whatever, but I do not have like a job that I'm going to that requires me to be dressed a certain way. I do definitely get dressed every day, out of pajamas, get you in the kind of right mind frame, but like I said, it's very throw on jeans and some sort of t-shirt or sweater. Not really styling. So for the month of March, I'm going to try to somewhat style pieces. Whether this will be successful or not, I don't know. And I've never been on trend once in my life, so I'm not gonna like be providing great fashion tips for you, but hopefully inspiring you to wear some of your handmade pieces. And I would love for you to jump in with me. You can tag me in posts, and I think the algorithm has since changed that even if you use the hashtag for like make-alongs and stuff, people have been saying, they may or may not show up. So that's just a little tidbit for you. If you want like a make-along host to see your post, you need to make sure to tag them. So you can tag me at fiber.and.fox on Instagram. And I'm gonna be trying, I haven't decided if I'm gonna do it in my stories every day. Like 31 posts to my grid would probably be a lot of you looking at my outfits, and you might get sick of that. So I might lump some days together or just do them up in my stories or something. But I'm going to try to photo document every day what I'm wearing, handmade, crochet, and knit pieces. If you want to jump in with sewing or any other form of handmade items, even if it's not every day, maybe you pick some days of the week, weekdays, Sundays, whatever, I would love for you to join me for Me Made March. So yeah, starting, I think today, in theory, I will be dressed and ready and posting later. But I thought it would be something fun for us to do. So it's not like an official like prizes or anything happening, but to intentionally, no matter where you are in your making journey, I'm sure you have a bunch of handmade pieces in your wardrobe that some are probably getting more wear than others. So I'm going to try and wear them. So you can join me if you'd like and use the hashtag #MeMadeMarch. Now, we must talk about what I'm wearing. This is the Daft Days Cardigan by the Crayabea, Rebecca Clow. And this has been, I think I cast it on end of December, beginning of January, and it's been finished for a couple weeks now. But the dyeing process of this was like the whole of last year, basically 2023. I was working on naturally dyeing, and which I'm kind of always dabbling with, but I was very intentionally trying to get a full rainbow gradient, full rainbow spectrum of colors in order to do some, I knew at the end of the year wanted to do some kind of rainbow mini skein project. So I was dyeing mini skeins throughout the year, and I gifted some to my mom, and I've set some aside that didn't quite fit in with my rainbow scheme, but I have completed the Daft Days Cardigan, which was a design that Rebecca did with, I think, a 14-day advent calendar. It's a DK weight sweater, and she was holding mini skeins double. So my main color is DK, and then all of the rainbow stripes are fingering weight minis held double. I also used 14 colors, and I think I made this third size. I'll have to double check that, but I was able to get a size that fit me well with that amount of yarn. And I'm really bad at like project notes, because at this point, like if I get knitting time or crochet time in, I don't have time for tedious note taking. So I'm sorry if I don't provide great Ravelry notes. I am never active on Ravelry in that way. But I do have a finished garment and it does in fact fit me. I might try to stand up and show it to you, but I'll probably put in some either pictures or footage of it done. It is kind of a crop. Okay, hang on here. Let's scoot that back a little. Can we see? Nope, not really. We're scooting more. We're scooting. Okay, it's kind of cropped. And it's got, I don't know, I'd say about 8 inches of positive ease or so on there. The sleeves I lengthened. I have a very long torso. I also lengthened the torso by what was in the pattern by about, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 stripes of the rainbow colors. So a total of like 8 chunks of stripes. So I lengthened that, and I was really worried about yarn management, but I'll show you, I have other projects over here, you can see them peeking out, of yarns that I was then able to use left over to make a bunch of socks. So I had plenty of mini skeins. It was a little dicey. I probably could have made it a little bit longer, because it's definitely hitting a little cropped. These are a high-waisted pant. So it fits great with that. And I found that I might have liked it maybe just basically the length of the ribbing longer. So I probably could have gotten more skeins or more stripes in there, but I was worried about running out and then not having more of any of these colors. So I think now you've gotten the gist of what it's looking like on me. Let me scoot the chair back and we'll keep chatting. Okay, I think that's thereabouts where we were before. What else can I tell you about the cardigan? All right, so it's an all over slip stitch pattern. It looks like a broken rib, but I think maybe she did slip stitches to avoid you having to purl as much. And I did a gauge swatch and everything, and it's come out basically to size, maybe a little smaller than I was expecting, because I think my gauge tightened up a little bit as I was going. But I didn't make any major modifications, and it all blocked out lovely. It's super wash yarn, so it blocked out to the size that I needed it to be. The stitch pattern itself with the slip stitches does not have a lot of give this way. You can't even see down there, sorry. It doesn't have a lot of horizontal like width give. And a bit of length with the slip stitches definitely make it a little tight. So it didn't grow as much width-wise as I was thinking. So just take that into account if you're planning on making it. What else can I tell you? And I didn't do any major modifications along the bottom here with the ribbing. I did add a purl bump row just for some texture. And then the only other thing that I think I changed up is I made the button band a little bit wider than was called for. And then around all of the edging, I did a slip stitch crochet edge just to kind of, I don't know, I just like the finish of that. I think it looks neat. And I talked about last time about maybe doing some sort of fancy bind off on the sleeves and the neckline and all of that. I just did a regular, I think I did a half stretchy bind off on this. And I think I just did a loose regular bind off on the collar, because the bottom was, it's worked bottom up, and the bottom was just a regular long tail cast on, so I didn't feel like doing anything fancy, tubular, whatever. But you definitely could. This doesn't ever bother me. Like, I know it's not that fancy, but who is studying your wrists? So I didn't feel like messing with sewn bind offs for just the wrists and whatever. What else? The buttons are by Fiber and Mud. She is a local artisan who actually works with indigo and does a lot of indigo and shibori dyeing. But she also is a ceramicist and has made lovely buttons. And I think I said last time you can't get them on her website, but they are on her website. So I will link her below for sure. She's got beautiful, these ones are like yellow and they have a little bit of blue to them. Really lovely. And I had bought them for another project and they ended up working out perfect for this one. The buttonholes, I had a hard time with the button band. Honestly, I think that gave me the most trouble out of any part of the pattern. I think I redid it like 3 or 4 times. First I didn't pick up the right amount of stitches, and then I like changed the width and figuring out where the buttons went. I will say she has some info in the pattern on button placement, and she does say like make sure, okay, hang on, let me see if I can show you. This buttonhole is actually worked into this collar ribbing instead of the actual button band where you're going this way. So you had to place these, I have 5, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and then a 6th in the collar. So doing the math based off of, you know, top to bottom, you can't see my other hand, but the bottom of the cardigan, doing the math without the ribbing on the top, knowing that it was gonna be there, and then properly spacing the buttonholes, I had a rough time with that. So I redid them a couple times, and I actually ended up referring to, a little plug for myself, my Fields cardigan. I have a great There's an entire page in the pattern on figuring out button placement and like a little formula that I use and pictures and basically a whole button placing tutorial. So if you've ever struggled with button placement, Fields Cardigan, it's a great place. It's a crochet design, but I was able to apply the same math and principles to getting the buttons right where I needed them. But yeah, it was just a little bit of a struggle having to visualize this button being here before you've knit this neckline. But she does mention that. It was just, I don't know, math-wise a little funny. But I think I got them mostly spaced out evenly. Like they're not horrendously. Maybe this one here, those two could be a little better spaced, but all in all, I think they're all right. Buttons can sometimes be the hardest part of a design, picking the buttons and then properly applying the buttons. And the buttonholes that were just regular old, like yarn over, knit two together kind of buttonholes, they came out really weird and they were like, I think I took a picture, they were looking like ice cream cone shape where the buttonhole would be like the ice cream on the top and then the yarn over was like splaying out weird. So I ended up just kind of stitching them up. I'm not going to keep getting up and showing you, but I ended up stitching them up a little tighter because they just looked weird. And I've done buttonholes like that a bunch of times. So I don't know if it was the heavy ceramic buttons or the gauge of the DK weight yarn. I don't know, but it was an easy enough fix. Tighten them up. They're good. And I think I was worried about the weight of the ceramic buttons, but I think with the DK, because I'm more used to working in a fingering weight yarn, I think with the DK, the ceramic works out. Okay. All in all, looking at myself on the screen, I'm thinking perhaps these are not my best colors. I haven't quite dove into the whole color, your personal colors, color analysis, whatever it is people are doing these days. But I'm pretty sure I'm an autumn. So I'm definitely like a jewel tone kind of spectrum. And these are a little lighter. Like there's a lot like the like pastel-y lilac color and the like peachy orange. So it's a little lighter. And even like the yellow buttons, you can tell that this is maybe not the best call for my skin tone. I'm definitely more of a mustard burnt orange kind of yellow shade. But I'm still really proud of this. Sorry, there was a timer going off in another room because sometimes my husband will be like, hey, Google, set a timer, and then it will set it on multiple locations in the house and then he can't hear it going off. So sorry about that. But we were talking about the color. Overall, I'm just really proud that I dyed these colors. There's some that maybe don't play as well with the gray. We talked about it last time, like this. Where are you? This one, this blue stripe in here does not contrast super well with the gray and the blue kind of faded. But all in all, I think I achieved a naturally dyed rainbow. Whether or not I could repeat these colors, that's a whole separate story. But I had made myself a little cheat card and I can show you. It is looking bedraggled. It is looking bedraggled being in my project bag for several months now. But all of the colors that I dyed, I did document what they were and what I was using, and I made this little like cardstock punch card just to keep track of the order of the stripes. Eventually I kind of memorized it, but from the beginning it was a little hard. But we got, I don't think I can show you in order on my sweater, but okay. Dark pink is pokeberry, also pokeberry, red onion, yellow onion, pokeberry and turmeric, autumn berries, black beans and turmeric, carrot top, dandelion, hickory hulls, black beans, that was the one that faded. Black beans definitely not like color fast. More pokeberry, wild grapes, and black huckleberries. So hopefully you just saw me point to some of that. I'm not sure what showed up on screen there, but that's what I was working with. And I do have a couple videos back in my natural dyeing playlist if you're interested in checking out more of the process. I don't do a ton of like tutorials on dyeing, but I do play around in natural dyeing a whole lot, and I plan to more in the coming year as the garden season ramps up. We have a whole bunch of seeds for like natural dyed pigments, flowers, etc. So that's going to be coming. So I finished the Daft Days Cardigan. I did really enjoy this pattern. The only critique, I think Rebecca's patterns are pretty clear. The only critique is that there's not a lot of information on color management if you are using mini skeins or an advent, because she's written the pattern to either be like two colors, so like a main color and then a contrast. I think hers is like cream and a navy, or to do it with an advent. But there's not a lot of info on how many grams per stripe. I think she breaks it down to like size extra small to size large, use roughly this much per stripe, but there wasn't a lot of information on like how much yarn you would need for the sleeves, or so I was just kind of worried about running out of mini skeins, and particularly because they were ones that I had naturally dyed and I no longer had that plant material. I could not replace colors. So just maybe err on the side of having extra yarn if you are going to make it. And I think having a scale and maybe weighing as you go to see how much yarn you're using to then figure out at least how many you can use for the body, and then kind of go from there. Like I said, I did have some extra and have made some other items at this point, so I could have made it bigger, but I was very nervous throughout because there was not a ton of info and there weren't a ton of project pages up at that point. There's probably more, so maybe check those. But yarn management was a little stressful, but we did it. So this is my Daft Days, and I am incredibly proud of it, and I don't care if it washes me out because I love it. It's awesome. Yeah, probably one of my proudest makes as far as process making. Finished object, I love it, but it might not be the best thing for me. But as far as the process, I'm really, really proud of how this came out. Then as I had finished the cardigan and had plenty of yarn left over, and I do still have an entire DK weight skein. The main color was dyed with white oak acorns and this is probably about 40 grams or so. So I think the pattern called for 4 skeins of DK for the main color in my size, and I ended up using about 3.5. So I have plenty of this left over to make something else. I don't work with DK a lot, so I have to come up with something to do with that. But I did want to show you also these. I have an entire sorbet worth of ends. That's another thing I wanted to talk to you about. Hang on, we're going to talk about the socks, but now we're going to go back to this. Ends. There's a lot of them. So if you are planning on doing a multicolored mini skein, any amount of striping, if you were doing just 2 colors, you could probably carry the stripes, but because I was changing colors so often, this is a ton of yarn ends, ton of little yarn wormies. Probably will make some sort of fun, I don't know, Christmas bulb or something with this, because again, I'm really proud of this yarn. But sewing in all the ends was an absolute pain. I eventually started carrying up the gray, but I don't love I haven't found a like catch the yarn, knit it in as you go method. I know there's like the weave and Steven, and then there's like holding it, and there's a bunch that I've tried. I think I've tried a Nitty Natty one, Hey Brownberry maybe technique. Like there's a bunch of tutorials I've tried for knitting in ends as you go, and I never get like a seamless, not noticeable, really secure finish with that. So I opted to just sew them all in. I was going to try, I think I may have mentioned it last time, on the inside of the sleeve, I wanted to try to braid. I had been sent a reel by one of my friends for basically like braiding the ends of a Fair Isle sweater, so like an all over color work where there was tons of colors in the sleeve, braiding the ends together. So creating like a braid running down the inside of the sleeve. And I tried that. I did it on one sleeve and ended up picking it back out. Didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. It created definitely like a noticeable ridge on the inside because again, you had like a braid of all the little yarn ends running down the inside of your arm. So it was kind of uncomfortable, and I had a really hard time tensioning it so it wasn't pulling. Maybe you could be more forgiving if you were braiding really loosely with like a really toothy yarn and it would kind of felt. Because this was superwash, I was trying to make sure it was pretty taut, and I ended up pulling it back out. I think I have a picture of it. It looked pretty neat from the inside, but the way that it felt and then kind of like puckered the sleeve because of the lack of stretch in the braid, I guess, I didn't like that technique. So maybe on some really rustic yarn color work that would work, but for this, it just didn't end up working out. So I had to sew in all of those ends, which took a really long time, but I'm glad that I did. And I sewed in like literally every end, just sewed in. Really, you can see, this is a weird way to show you, but I don't feel like taking it off. There's a ton of ends, and because you're holding it double for the mini skeins, it was double the ends. A lot of work, but I finished it all. There's not a single end in here, and this is really polished looking. So that is now my Daft Days cardigan. Having finished that, and having yarn left over, I was going to use all that yarn to its fullest. So I decided to make some Daft Days-ish socks. This is not a Rebecca Clow pattern. I started out roughly following, I think they're called the Broken Rope socks by Summerlee Knits. But I basically only followed that for this part of the sock. Hers doesn't have ribbing on the top, and then I did whatever I wanted down here. And I think that's part of her Hello Sailor sock set. But it's a basic broken rib. So this is in fact broken rib, whereas this is slip stitches. But having done socks in the past, sorry, there's a fuzz on there. Having done socks in the past with slip stitches, they don't have, like I said, a lot of that width give. So sometimes I have a hard time getting them up over the arch of my foot and stuff, and they're kind of tight. So I did an actual you know, knit one row, knit one purl row in the next row, broken rib sort of stitch pattern throughout. And I started out doing, I think, eight stripes in the gray, and this is not the naturally dyed yarn. This is, I actually have the label this time so I can tell it to you correctly. Patent Scroll Socks in the colorway Flax. It is flax, everyone. I always go back and forth between whether it's flax or linen. It's flax. I had one 50-gram skein of Patent Scroll in a similar gray. You know, it's not exactly the same, but this is pretty close. So I started doing 8 stripes of that, 1 stripe in a contrast color, and then I was worried about yarn management on the gray, so I switched over to 8x4 stripes, and I actually really liked the way that looked, which you'll see in my next project. And for each of the cuffs, heels, and toes, I held just a random, well, those ones I didn't hold double. Those are just a green and a purple, and then this is a different green and purple that I held double with some Green Mountain Spinnery. Really thin gray mill ends. My nail is still busted. Will this ever grow out? I don't know. I shut it in a door months ago. And then the toes are orange and yellow. Hello. There we go. And those are held double as well. And as you can see, the socks do not match exactly. I think, which one did I start with? I think I started with this one and I worked down the rainbow, and then I picked up, just trying to use the yarn efficiently, picked up where I left off over here and then worked down again. So the feet are kind of similar in that the colors repeat, like they both have yellow and green throughout the foot. But yeah, they're very, very fun. And I'm hoping to get some video for either a reel or pictures or something wearing this outfit with these socks, with my Birkenstocks. Because if you're gonna wear hand-dyed rainbow, you wear that hand-dyed rainbow. I'm so proud of these. These are so fun. Like, look at this. This should be the cover photo, except we're talking about sweater drama. So we'll be there in a minute. But I finished those. That was a fun, easy project for socks of the year. And now I'm on to a second pair of socks because those are so fun. Look how fun those are. Look how differently it contrasts with the gray and a brown. Oh my goodness. I think this would have been a better color palette for me. I almost wish I did the main color of this in a darker, either a darker gray or a brown like this, because that is definitely more my color scheme than this light gray. But wow, look at how fun those are. So I have a little bit of yarn left. I've obviously completed one sock here, and now I have run out of a couple colors, so it's gonna get funny. This is what I have left, with a little bit of white mixed in there too, just a tiny bit. And for whatever reason, just yarn management or variation in the skeins themselves, like some of the colors I have pretty substantial little nuggets left, and some of the colors I have not substantial nuggets left, and some of the colors I think I ran out of the bright yellow, and like this one I'm definitely going to run out of, and it's going to get a little dicey. So you can see, you probably can't see, but this one, this bright yellow, hello. This bright yellow I ran out 3 rows in, so I ended up adding a row of this into this color. You can't really tell, I don't think. But on the other sock, I'm gonna have to sub in some other color, and I think this bright green as well I'm gonna run out of. But these are so incredibly fun. Like, oh, I like this color scheme so much better. And it pops so much more, other than this army greenish olive drab color up here. Like this blue contrast so much better. I did it for the toe as well. So much better. And these are a no pattern sock. These are just a vanilla sock. I think I did 64 stitches on these. And again, I held some Green Mountain Spinnery double here, and I ended up throwing in a white stripe as well just to get a little more length, because I do knit my socks cuff down. So I wasn't perfect on my math getting the right length for the foot, but this works. And yeah, I'm going to basically use up, there might be a tiny bit left of each yarn, or some of the yarns. I'm on to the second sock now. Just did this today. So yeah, a little bit of that left. So like at this point, I'm finished with this purple and I have that much left. So that'll just end up going, maybe I'll start a naturally dyed scrap container, because I do have that glass. That's pretty good directional pointing. I'm usually pretty terrible at that. That glass one up there is all of my fingering weight scraps, but I'll probably start a separate naturally dyed scrap situation. That's not true. The glass fox is fingering weight scrap in rainbow and gray colors, so these would fit in there, but then the yellow one is random other fingering weight scraps. Because I do love me a scrappy sock, as you can tell. But yeah, we might put these in a separate category. But like this, I'm done with this purple, and I've done both socks, and I have, you know, quite a bit of that left. So I don't quite understand what went on with yarn management and tension and gauge and whatever, but I do have a variety of different weights, not different yarn weights, but grams, different grams of yarn left over after completing this. So this is really fun. The main color that I'm using here is also not hand-dyed. This I got at, I guess you could say I thrifted it, but I got it at like an antique store that has little separate vendor kiosks, and one of them has a yarn. It's not antique yarn, but she sells yarn in an antique store. So I don't know. It's like a D-stash. But this is Lion Brand Sock Ease, which I've never seen anywhere else. So I'm assuming this is discontinued, and it's got the old lion on it, the old logo. So I've never seen this anywhere before, but it's 75% wool, 25% nylon. So I believe it's not superwash then. And it's the colorway Root Beer. It says machine washable and dryable, but it doesn't say superwash. So I never know what to make of that, because Patton's Croy also says that, but it doesn't feel like superwash at all. And I hand wash my socks, so I cannot speak to that. But colorway Root Beer in this Lion Brand Sock Ease, which I really actually like. It is very similar to West Yorkshire Spinner's Signature 4-ply in feel and whatnot. So I would, if I could get my hands on more of this D-stash somewhere, I would like more of this yarn. And originally I wasn't sold on this brown. It's kind of brown. So I didn't want to make a solid brown pair of socks, but I knew I could stripe it with scraps or something. And I think it came out great, actually, contrasting with the rainbow. So I will have plenty left after the second sock and can do other stripy rainbow socky things with it. So yeah, I'm going to probably have maybe a total of 20 grams throughout all of, I'll weigh it when I'm done, throughout all of my leftovers. But I feel like I used this yarn very responsibly. Like I used it to its fullest potential. And yeah, maybe I'll have less than 20 grams. I might have like 5 or 10 grams left total. I'll try to weigh it and get a picture when I'm all done with all the objects together and then the remnant. But I'm really proud of this, and I'm excited to go forward with natural dyeing. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well, but going forward, where natural dyeing will take me, because I really, really enjoy it, and hopefully I can get a little better at creating colors that maybe look better on me, but I'm proud of this. And I have really fun socks now to wear with my crazy sweater. So fun. So proud. So much fun. So comment below, which one is your favorite out of all of this? I just feel so silly being like a 30-something-year-old woman wearing this entirely rainbow knit outfit, but I'm not sorry about it. No apologies. So now to what we are considering today's main event. We have sweater drama. We have a lot of sweater drama. So last time I showed you I had the sweater that was knit up before I had a lot of knowledge of garment design and shaping, and was really just kind of just getting back into knitting back in, I think, like 2017, 2018, 2019, I forget. I have the picture. I screenshot it on my phone, but back a long time ago when I worked at an auction house, I had purchased a lot of crazy rainbow kind of variegated self-striping acrylic weird yarn that I really wasn't sure what the application of it should be. And at that point I knew, I think, about sock knitting, and I knew it wasn't a sock yarn and it wasn't the right weight, and so I was trying to make it into a sweater, but I had no knowledge, and still I'm not very good at winging knit patterns. I can wing crochet all day long. I can make any shape, but knitting, shaping, and whatnot, not my strong point. So I had knit bottom up at like no particular gauge. It was actually pretty tight fabric. A very large boxy, I'll put in footage, it's not flattering, very large boxy rectangle bottom up, no neck shaping. The armholes were too small, going to be drop shoulder, but no shoulder shape. So just literally a giant rectangle with like a neck hole and some tiny armholes out of this yarn. And it says it's the same color, but it's definitely different dye lots, and not even just different dye lots, like completely different applications of the color. So maybe over time the dye lot evolved or something, or the colorway evolved. I'm not sure. Because it's not a slight difference. There's two very different categories of yarn here. So I was going to frog that, which I did. I frogged it back, and I meant to separately weigh how much of each color I had, but I didn't once I split it out. So I have this bag. This is about 300 grams. This is the one that I'm not using right now. Because this had a maroony hue to it. I'm not going to take it all out of here. But it was heavy on the maroons. And I don't dislike that, but I preferred this. Here, let me show you the two together. You've seen me wearing the sweater at this point, but this is much brighter. Much brighter, much crisper colors. And this yarn, I think, has been discontinued for a very long time. It is by Coats, Moda Sassy Stripes. And it stripes and knits it stripes and patterns as you knit or crochet, but there's no telling what the pattern is. This is the colorway 6250 in color Crayon. But like I said, I had different dye lots, and this one is much crisper white in pinkish red, whereas the other one kind of bled together into more of a maroon, and the bright green was a lot less present. And the citron-y green is kind of my favorite part. So I was planning to split the two dye lots out and then to try and make, from this Knitting for Olive book, which we've talked about a bit recently, I was going to try to make, it's called It's Not a Sweatshirt. And at this point, it may never be a sweatshirt. So it's this beautiful neutral staple in the Knitting for Olive merino held with a fingering weight and a mohair together. And it's just really drapey and lovely and staple and not a ridiculous rainbow statement. But oh no, I've taken it next level. And I have made all sorts of problems here for myself. So already this is not a fingering weight yarn. This is 152 yards to 50 grams. So about a sport weight or so, leaning towards DK maybe. It says it's a DK. So it says right here, this would have been enough to achieve gauge by itself. But I already knew that I did not like that, a patterning situation, and I was hoping to mute it down with some mohair. So I knew my gauge was going to be off because the pattern calls for DK. And I already have a hard time following patterns out of books just because it's cumbersome to have, this is a beautiful book, but it's cumbersome to have this large book with, 20 patterns in it when I only need the couple pages. Like the pattern itself, minus the pictures, is 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, and I have to schlep around this book, which sometimes is a lot with children, cats, and everything else. So I have a hard time with that. And because the book is written specifically for the Knitting for Olive yarns, it just says like however many skeins of Knitting for Olive. So like 4, 5, 6, 7 skeins. So I had to then go and find the exact yardages and do some math on like, okay, how much yardage am I going to need? Because those are, I think, 50-gram balls. And like, so I had to math that out for how much I would actually need in DK weight of any yarn. And then I was adding the fingering weight, and I thought that was going to put me at like a worsted weight. I thought. But as it turns out, I didn't read. I did all this information in the pattern looking at yardages and whatnot, but then I didn't actually read the ball bands of the yarn that I had. So I'm holding it double. I'm going to show you the sweater, I promise. But I'm holding this double with some yarn that I had gotten clearance. Which I thought was probably discontinued, but I have been able to find it from like 2 vendors online, but I can't tell if it's still being produced or if they just still have some. But this is Joe Sharp Rare Comfort Kid Mohair, and it's 80% kid mohair, 5% wool, and 15% polyamide. So I was like, oh, great, glorious. It doesn't have silk in it, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but there's definitely a lot to be considered as far as cruelty-free silk and not cruelty-free and all that. So I just skipped the whole silk issue. It's polyamide, it's synthetic. This yarn is 100% acrylic, so I wasn't really worried about synthetics. And I thought together they would pare down, it would mute down the colors and kind of blend the stripes, because the other issue is the yarns all start at different points. So I had tried to sort of match up like where I had left off to continue in a sort of stripe sequence so it flowed and didn't like pool weird. But yeah, I was frogging yarn and these like didn't match up anyway, so the mohair definitely muted down and kind of blended the colors together nicely. And I had 5, maybe 6 of these. And I had gotten them on clearance. They were $8.95 originally. And I think I got them like 75% off. So let me just do some quick maths here. All right, so I think I had 5 of these to start with. It may have been 6. Again, I did not manage my yarn properly. But yeah, they were $8.95 originally. I think I got them 75% off. So they were less than $3 each. So all in all, I was in about maybe $11, $12 on yarn. Somewhere between 10 and 12, depending on how much I actually started with. And I thought that would be a sweater quantity because usually 5 or 6 balls of mohair in a lace weight is a lot of yardage. But as it turns out, this doesn't say what weight it is right on here, but if you dig into the ball band here, it is 95 yards per 25 grams. Mohair skeins are very frequently 25 grams. But 95 yards, if you times that by 4, that puts you at 380, which is not lace weight. So then I looked on Ravelry. This says it's an Aran weight. It's not. It's definitely not Aran weight, but it's definitely floofier. And it can be hard to tell with mohair. And like this, definitely the core in the middle, I would say, was maybe lace weight. But once you add the floofs in, this is coming out to be about a sport weight too. So now I've combined sport weight with DK to create some sort of Aran bulky weight gauge. So my gauge was already off. I did the math. I'm knitting the smallest size. Thought it was going to come out okay. I think it was going to be about, let's see, how many inches? I think it was going to put me 44 or so inches circumference. And it was all going to be good. And I was going to have enough yarn, and I felt okay that if I ran out of the brighter color in the body, then I would switch to the more muted color in the sleeves, and it would be slightly different, but okay. But then I done ran out of mohair. So what I have here is the not even completed raglan of this sweater. And I have, like, there's some things I could have done better. But this does fit at this point. I'm liking the fabric. It's got this double folded collar, which I am never, ever again, I don't know if I'm doing something horribly wrong, but anytime I like do the like knit 2 togethers to like attach a double folded anything, I get like this spiral where it's leaning. You can see that's not, it doesn't look terrible, but it's definitely got some curve to it. So I'm going to go with either crocheting it down or sewing it down loosely, because somehow I must be picking up a stitch either in front or behind of where I should be to knit it together, and it tilts. So it's got some tilt to it. So that I probably could have redone, but I was like, it's mohair, I'm not ripping back. Should have at that point ripped back and reconsidered my life. Sorry, we ran into a memory card issue there, so hopefully everything's okay. So I got through the raglan. I attached my collar, did the short rows, raglan, everything's looking pretty good. You can't really see the raglan shaping because it's so eaten up in the mohair, but I was pretty happy with this fabric. Like the stripes are a little thicker on top and then spread out obviously as there's more stitches, but I felt like it was muting it down enough that it would be wearable. And my gauge is definitely off, but I was like okay with that and had mathed it all out and thought I was going to be okay. And if I had to work in that other color dye lot, I was going to. Then I realized that my mohair was in fact sport weight, possibly DK, and not lace weight. And I have this much left still attached. So this is probably 20 or so grams. And then I have one more, but that's not enough for the whole sweater because at this point I've used 3 or 4 just to do the raglan. So this was supposed to be the sweater that cost me a total of like $15 because I had gotten this mohair super cheap, $10 or so total. I think I paid about $5 for the entire mess of auction house yarn. And this was supposed to be like not my most prized possession. I was gonna knit it up, have it for winter wear, like playing outside with the kids in the snow, a thick cozy layer. But now I'm gonna run out of mohair. And I found it online. It's not super readily available, but for whatever reason, it's more expensive than when I bought it, even at the regular price in the yarn shop. And I can double check with the yarn shop. I don't think they carry it anymore. So even if I paid $8.95 instead, I don't think the yarn shop has it. So I found it online for about $11 a donut ball hank thing. But $11 for 25 grams is like kind of not a great deal. And I'm figuring that I'm going to need 5 or 6 more at least. Again, I'm kind of winging it on the yardage there. And I don't usually work with mohair a lot. I had this and I thought it would pair together well. And it does. But I don't know that I love this. Like, this is not my new favorite thing. And it's a very heavy gauge. And it's hard on my hands because I'm knitting this on... I can't find the needle in here because it's on the cord. Where is the needle? What are you? I think this is a 7. Yes, a 4.5 millimeter US 7. And I think the pattern might have called for... I can look. The pattern's right on my lap. Yeah, the pattern called for a 7. I swatched it in an 8, knowing that my yarn was thicker, but not thicker than I even thought. Not as thick as... I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But the point is, to order more of this, it's going to cost me about around $60 to obtain the mohair, to then add to the $15 or so. So do I really want a $75 acrylic, rainbow striped, oversized, Aran weight, super furry, looks like the Muppets all exploded on me sweater? I don't know. I really don't know. So this had already been in timeout for like years because I didn't know what to do with the original one. And I want this whip to be done. I don't want it on my needles anymore. But I don't know how to save it. And there's also the matter of if I order the mohair online, it could be a completely different, it will be a completely different dye lot. We're talking years difference here. So unless there's some miracle and I get that same dye lot, there could be some major color variation there. So at this point I've just stopped. I have more yarn. I could keep going, but at least if I am going to order more mohair, I'd like to fade it in, do some helical knitting or something to kind of blend the colors together. But I just don't know if I want to. Like, I have one more Raglin repeat, I think, before I join for the sleeves and the body, or split for the sleeves and the body. And I just don't know if it's worth it. Like, it's fun. But do we love it? Is it art? I don't know. And I did try, let's talk about this. This is exciting. I did try, I tried to frog the swatch because I was like, if I frog this, can I even, or am I just gonna have to throw this in the garbage can? I froze the swatch because I've heard that freezing mohair relaxes the fibers. And I will say, super pleased with that outcome. Like, it catches a little bit on the ends of the row. So you kind of have to give it a little detangle when you get to the end of the row, but it frogs lovely, having been frozen. But the issue is that I'm still holding yarns double. And if you've ever tried to split 2 yarns apart after holding them double and rewind them into separate yarns again, that's a nightmare. So these yarns are like forever joined in something. So I could frog it, but I'm stuck with this color combo and I'm stuck with this amount of yarn. Plus the 1.5 skeins of mohair I have left. So what do I do? What would you do? This is going to be in timeout, I think, until the next podcast because I don't know what to do with it. And at this point, we're coming up on, like, I want to make spring things and summer things and be working on, like, tank tops and that kind of thing. I don't want to be working on a mohair acrylic sweater that realistically I might get to wear once at this point by the time it's done. Maybe not even. So I'm very frustrated with that. Read your ball bands. Do your gauge swatches. I did my gauge swatches, but then I just made a bunch of assumptions. And it's a mess. So that's the drama with the it's not a sweatshirt, may never be a sweatshirt scenario. Let me know down below. Would you save it? Would you frog it? Would you order the $60 of mohair? Hope it kind of matches. Is this worth it? I mean, ultimately it's my sweater and I have to decide, but frustrated. And it's not like the most fun thing to work on. It's a very basic plain raglan. So at least with the color, it's kind of fun, more so than if I was just doing it in like a solid gray or something, because that would get kind of boring. So the color's fun, but I'm knitting it at a ridiculously it's not like super dense. Like there's definitely, I can see light through. I don't know if you can. You can't. I can see light through when I'm looking through it if I hold it up to the window. So it's not like bulletproof or anything, but it's definitely hard on my wrists and my hands. I think it'll get a little bit better once I split off the sleeves and body stitches because there's just so much on there and I'm shifting it around and don't have like a giant cord. I'm just really frustrated because I really wanted to finish that and have, it's my only lingering whip, like only. So I just really wanted to have it finished off and have it be a functional item. And I might have enough to do like a kid size. That's a little much for my son, and my daughter says she likes it, but I don't think she's actually gonna like wearing mohair. I think it's gonna be too itchy for her, and that's not the softest of the soft mohair. So I don't know. What would you do? Make the Muppet sweater, buy the expensive mohair, carry on. And before you suggest it, I did think about, oh, maybe I can just order some cheaper mohair from like Hobby or something. It's gonna be a totally different gauge because lace weight. So not only would it be a different color, it's going to switch the gauge. I've created myself a monster here. A literal Muppet monster. Do we kill the Muppet monster? Do we throw the Muppet monster out? Do we salvage the Muppet monster? Do we buy the Muppet monster expensive mohair? I just don't know. So enough about that. I don't know what we're going to do about that. That's the whole problem. But I do have a couple acquisitions just to show you really quick. Acquirings, as I call them. I have some thrifted yarn that I actually didn't thrift myself. A friend of mine thrifted it for me. My friend Kristen of Milo and Molly, she runs a Connecticut artisan makers, like kind of a guild sort of thing called the Nutmeg Collective. She heads it up, and it's all potters and soap makers and sewists and painters and carvers and like artisans from Connecticut who run small businesses. So I'm part of that and have been for 5 years, I think now. And she was thrifting at Savers with another maker friend, and she found some undyed wool, and she messaged me and was like, hey, you want this? And I happened to see it. I'm not usually fast to respond. Happened to see it and responded, and she got it for me. So I have 7 skeins of this beautiful, it's very, very rustic, single ply. Older, I think it's discontinued because I couldn't find this exact to price it out, but Manos del Uruguay, 700 tex, I don't know what that is, hand spun wool, but it doesn't say yardage on here. I had looked it up, but basically she got this, I think for about, hang on, I have the screenshot, let me look. So we mathed it out, and we had found some similar yarns by Manos that are still in rotation, and similar weight, similar style at like $44 a skein or so. And she got this one for 7 skeins for about $7.50 total. 9 skeins. So not bad for $7.50. Pretty good. And she was just thinking of me doing natural dyeing on it. This is not something that I would, I could probably actually get away with it. I could hold it with mohair. Let's not. But I don't usually work with, I would say that this is an Aran weight. But it's beautiful wool. And I don't think I've dyed on like a single ply hand spun texture before. So it'd be interesting. And I could dye an entire, 9 skeins of this? Like it says this on there, but I don't know, like at some point was Manos like actually hand spinning and hand writing their labels? Because I feel like they're a bigger company now, but maybe this is that old. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure what the yardage is, but I have 9 skeins of Aran weight, so maybe that's enough for some sort of a garment, cardigan, something. I don't know, but I have a whole bunch. So that was really cool. Thank you, Kristen. And then for my birthday, which has come and gone, I don't talk about it on the internet, but my birthday, I had one. This was my birthday cardigan. Look how cute this is with this. My bestest fiber friend, Emily of A Rambling Yarn, got me this book by somebody that she follows on Instagram, Rebecca Desnos, and I'm not sure if it says her handle on here. Instagram at Rebecca Desnos, and she's from the UK. But she independently published this book, Grow Your Own Color, and it's got just beautiful pictures of different natural dyeing methods and flowers, and it's got all sorts of info on actually growing plants if you're unfamiliar with that, and different garden, like she's got no-dig garden methods and like full-on like gardening tips in here. Seed saving, and then she gets into different plants that you can expect to get different colors out of. I'm sorry, I'm looking down. That's never helpful. I'm trying to find a good, so like there's pictures of like, this is the marigold and these are the colors that I was able to yield with this marigold. And she talks about mordants and dyeing on different fabrics and different things like that. And just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I already have a lot of these flowers planned to plant for this year, but Emily gave me the book after I had bought seeds. And I was like, dang it, Em, now I gotta buy more seeds, which, you know, isn't really a problem. But how beautiful. And I'm assuming she did the photography herself. I'm sure it says in here somewhere. But it's got a ton of info on different dye methods. She dyes a lot on fabric, it looks like, but there is, I think, some references to yarn in here. And she's got like a full gamut of like mordants and different color ranges of different flowers. And there's also some things on here about steam dyeing and bundle dyeing, and it looks like something about like doing some painting. So that's super cool. Bundle dyeing, steaming, the hammer stuff that I was doing last year, like the tataki zome, I think is how you say it. That's a bundle dye. This one's obviously hammered in. So just all sorts of really fun stuff that Em thought I'd be into, which I totally am. So that is going to be in my arsenal as I'm planting seeds this year and trying to more intentionally extract colors. At this point, I've been very much like, let's put it in the pot and see what it makes. Let's try. But I would like to be more intentional, maybe keep some notes, because there's been no note-taking thus far, but we'll see. So 2024, there's going to be a lot of natural dyeing. My camera is telling me that it's dying, so it's time that I wrap this up. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Please let me know what we do about this Muppet sweater, because I just don't know. And your thoughts on my naturally dyed situation. Thank you for hanging out. I will see you in episode 71, and be on the lookout for the Scarfy Shawl pattern release. Get on my mailing list and you won't miss anything. Like, subscribe, turn on the bell, all that stuff. You know how to do it. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here, guys.